Good morning to everyone. Great to see so many people here. This is going to be a lot of fun this morning. It's so just for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome to Monday morning warm-up classes or warm-up sessions or whatever you want to call it. This is a tradition that we started at the beginning of the pandemic in last May and have been continuing on now into 2021. And it is fantastic for us this morning to have Mr. Dale Clevenger with us from his house in Indiana. Good morning, Dale, and welcome. We're going to start with Dale. You're going to talk to us a little bit about warming up and what your thoughts are. Let's start with Dale.
Well, whenever I get new students, I always ask a couple of questions first. I said, "How old are you?" Just out of curiosity, because some people I can't tell how old are they, and how long have they been playing horn, and why do they play the horn? And if you ask all 200 of these people on this morning, the answer is going to be the same. They play the horn because of the sound. So the sound of the instrument is dominant, is over everything that we do. It's all about how you sound. And I thought, how do we get that sound? Where does it come from? And my father used to take me to symphony and operas, and so I heard the orchestra situation, and then I saw this instrument which looked very beautiful, and then I learned to listen to it, and I liked the sound, and that's when I was like 7 or 8 years old. At 12, he couldn't afford a horn, so I played a trumpet for a couple of years, and then at 13, I got my first horn, and my life has been one whirlpool of miracles, and I've been very, very lucky. Lots of doors have opened, but I did a lot of hard work, and was lucky to be able to do it. Fourth horn in the Chattanooga Symphony in high school for 2 years, and then in college, 3 years solo horn in the Wheeling, West Virginia Orchestra. So that means I was playing big repertoire. While I was in college, and I played mostly first horn when I was in school itself. So I got a lot of experience. I played 2 years. I was playing extra horn of the Pittsburgh Symphony, and the first piece I ever played with the Pittsburgh Symphony was Mahler's Sixth. And I wondered, would I ever get to play this? It was my intention and my desire to be a solo horn player. So I was really very, very fortunate, and a lot of wonderful things happened. There were downward periods of my life that when I went to New York, that they were not calling to and when, I called Jim Buffington. You know that name, Andrew? Jim Buffington?
No, I don't.
He was a friend of John Barrow's. They worked together like twins. Phenomenal horn player and musician. I called him one time. I said, Jim, don't they love me anymore? He said, Dale, nobody's working. Don't worry, it'll come back. So anyway, in time, gradually things started building up. I played 3 years with Stokowski, third horn and first horn, occasionally first. I played 3 years with the Symphony of the Air, which was the very end of the NBC Symphony. And I was second and third horn in that. But, and all the time I was taking auditions, and I did not pass probably about 8 or 9 auditions. And finally, the second audition for Chicago Symphony, I was lucky enough to get it. And the day that they called me that I got it, I was absolutely weak. I fell on the floor in tears. You don't know how to react for something like that. So the first concert that I played was the first rehearsal. I sight read the Martin Concerto for 7 winds, timpani, and percussion. And we later recorded it, played it on tour 24 times. And I never looked back. And I've had so many highlights of the career, I couldn't possibly, in 1 hour, I couldn't even list them all. What I wanted to talk about is that, I mean, there are lots of specific things that any one of you could ask, and I know that we don't have time, nor the technology doesn't allow it. But what do I do when I warm up? Well, when I was playing in the orchestra, I used to say, I don't cool off. I mean, how much can you lose between 10 o'clock at night and 10 o'clock the next morning? You know, when your lip is very good and you're ready to play, how much do you actually lose? In my section, I had the most extreme people one who warmed up for an hour, Schweikert, exactly the same warm-up, the same practice routine for 50 years, 5-0. From the time he was in Eastman, that's what he did. That was on my right, and one person past him warmed up like this. Into the horn, on the stage, ready to play. Boom. Schweikert complained one time about his lip was a little stiff. He couldn't play. And Dick Oldberg says, if I played as much as you do before rehearsal, mine would be too. So I've experienced the absolute limit, extremes of warm up or not, or, you know, when is warm up practice and when is it not, and so on.
Awesome. But, Dale, I'm sorry to jump in. I'm just wondering. You've got a mouthpiece and you're buzzing. Can you show us some buzzing exercises that you would start with that we can try?
First of all of you should be, and it's good. All this is being recorded for you. All of my students are required to have a journal to write down exactly what they do every day. What is your plan for the day, and so forth. And while I did not do this when I was young, I've discovered that practicing and playing the mouthpiece is incredibly beneficial. It has been for all of my students since I graduated from the Chicago Symphony. That's when I started this. And it's just, it's wonderful. Now, we can do, if you talk about what we actually do, we think we want to play beautifully. And before you ever put the mouthpiece on your face, you can strengthen your lips like that, because that's what we do when we play. So you can actually practice or warm up a little bit with just without the mouthpiece. And when you put the mouthpiece on, obviously you've got to find a good place, or the so-called right place. You have to press it in. And if I ask all 200 of you, have any of your band directors ever told you, watch out that you're using too much pressure. Don't use too much pressure. I think you're using too much pressure. You know what? It's not good to use too much pressure. Any statement like that, forget it. It's wrong. And you know, how much pressure you use is not a criteria. How you sound is a criteria. So when we put the mouthpiece on our face, yes, we are pressing in. We're using pressure. But that's not the best thing to call it. Farkas called it a seal. We seal flesh inside the mouthpiece and outside. Arnold Jacobs called it something which it really is. It isolates flesh inside and out. When you press in, at the same time, you strengthen, you engage these muscles, and you push back a little bit, and you find the right balance. And then you blow air through it. and you find the right amount of air for whatever you want to do. I strongly suggest minimum 30 minutes a day on the mouthpiece. You could be saying, what the heck am I going to do for 30 minutes on the mouthpiece? You do quality tones. Different lengths, different dynamics, different notes. Just quality tones. If they're not good quality, they don't count. So I don't call them long tones. They have to have a criteria of beautiful quality, a resonant, a ringing kind of sound, even on the mouthpiece. I can't play so well on the mouthpiece, I can't play low really good. I never have been able to, but I don't worry about it. I've got students and there are plenty of other people who can play much better in the low register. But quality tones all over the register, as much as you can do. Minimum 10 minutes. The next 10 minutes is very crucial. And very few of you do it. Sirens. Going up, coming down.
Okay.
Going down, coming up.
Can we all try that?
Different, yeah.
Let's all do that
Different
again.
dynamic levels.
Yeah.
Very slow. Pianissimo. That is true legato. Many professionals and most students cannot play legato. They don't play smoothly enough. And this is one extremely good way of doing it. The way your air is flowing through there is constant. And just because we move valves does not mean that we have to huff the air. If it's necessary to huff the air, to pulse it, it's okay. But to play legato, very smooth. Now there are all kinds of pieces what you have to play legato. Can they hear me? If I pulse it, it sounds like this. There's nothing wrong with that, but I need to be able to do the first one as well. And there are all kinds of excerpts in the repertoire that you really need to play very, very legato. And I do everything I'm doing right now is non-tongued. Period. Non-tongued. Now, the next 10 minutes of the next period of time, what do we do? What do I do? Melodies. You can make it up. You can play excerpts. You can play concertos. So lots of melodies. Improvised melodies. And with only the mouthpiece, there's nothing about the horn that's a problem because you're not using it. You don't have to worry about hand position, about holding it, about how heavy it is, or what fingerings to use. Any horn problems are out the door. They're gone as long as you're playing on this and getting a beautiful sound, a resonant, ringing, lovely vibration. I don't even call it a buzz anymore, because the word buzz is not a beautiful word. It's what we do. It's true and it's not wrong, but a vibration. You can't name any instrument at all in the music world that doesn't get a vibration. They all do. So we do it on the horn and on brass instruments. All of this is basic brass pedagogy. And if you will do it by the time you do 30 minutes on the mouthpiece with those, what I'm telling you, or what I'm suggesting, I don't suggest to my students, I command. To you people, I suggest. Do it, don't do it. It's up to you. But by the time you finish that, you're warmed up. You're ready to go. Now, I'm not ready to go because I haven't played so much. I haven't prepared for a public performance in way over a year. So to build up this strength, stamina, endurance, strength, engagement, call it whatever you like, to build this up, I need to play for 2 to 3 hours a day with proper rest. If you don't, you'll bruise your lip. Proper rest. Okay? Extremely important. I've had students come in my studio with blue lips because they just kept it against their face for 6 hours. And as soon as that happens, you can't play for a month. You got to let it go. So we have mouthpiece work, mouthpiece, and there's many more things to analyze, to talk about with this mouthpiece, how fast your air is coming. I strongly suggest that all of you take maximum breath most of the time, and not to breathe every time you see a rest. Little tiny nothing breaths. It doesn't help you, and then you can't play long phrases. But you don't have the control of the instrument, control of a phrase, control of dynamics. That if you have plenty of air, and that's the one thing that I have to remind myself of every day, every minute that I play the horn, fill up, tank up, see what it's like, and it will benefit you. Okay? I'm not saying that you always will have a full lungs load of air, but most of the time, yes. Because you're playing as long a phrase as possible, and you're playing dynamics that, if you don't have the fuel, you can't sustain the dynamics.
And Dale, sorry to interrupt, but there's some questions in the chat, and I just was wondering, is there an exercise that you guys could all do, that you could demonstrate and they could do together with you?
A particular exercise.
Or
I did this. And you can play simple scales, non-tongue. And just elongate the register that you play in. And make sure that you're sitting up. I have a bad habit of doing this. And so my lungs cannot fill up. So I have to do this. When I was sitting in the orchestra, I had a special chair made that forced me to sit up. And they would take that chair on tour. The small of my back was like this, and I had to sit up. So we have to do sensible, reasonable things. But a particular exercise, no. I can play. I also recommend strongly the Conconi books, but there are dozens of good books and dozens of methods, all of which have something positive in them. I'm not saying something is particularly better than the other. I use and have used all of my career the Joseph Singer Amateur Building book. Yes, it's boring sometimes to play through it, but it is also a lip builder. By lip builder, I mean engaging this strength here. And you can change the quality. I don't want, as a general rule, I don't want to sound like this. And what I've done is stretch my lips. So as I blow air out, I'm blowing through lips which are tight and tense, and that's the kind of sound I get. I don't like that sound. I was talking with Andrew yesterday. If you think about all the horn players who have existed in Baroque times, classical times, and now, we're talking thousands of horn players and thousands of teachers. There's probably nothing, zero, that we do now that's new. Probably nothing. Maybe slightly different way of thinking, but probably nothing that we're doing. It's how you balance your thinking. We have two areas of consideration: everything that is artistic and everything that is athletic. Musical, technical. The end product, the means to the end. Everything comes under those things, and how you balance that is absolutely major. And everybody can play a pretty tone if they are compelled to, if they want to. Everybody. If you just experiment. Practicing is experimentation. It is discovery. It is trial and error. It is necessary. But, but keep the horn against your face. You can make up your own exercises. So far, in this half hour, I have not tongued one thing. So articulation is not even considerable. Now I have to start thinking about articulation. That's touching the tongue to the teeth. Where does it go? All you got to do is this. Abruptly stop that note. Try it. Hold a note. Da, and stop it with your tongue. D. Bam. Where's your tongue touching? It's between your teeth. That's where you tongue everything. If you want to experiment and tongue a little higher, that's okay. But that's not I tongue every style that's necessary to tongue between my teeth. And you must have minimum of 3 to 5 different tone colors that a listener can hear you play and know that you're playing different tone colors, okay? Different styles. You don't make, Mozart does not sound like Brahms or Bruckner. And you must have minimum of 3 to 5 different articulations. Most students never think about it. They just play. Whatever comes out, they play. That's not disciplined playing at all. And if one thing we have to be when you're playing professionally is disciplined. So there's the tone color, there's the articulation, then there's the dynamics. If you count all the dynamics between 3 fortes and 3 pianos, that's 9. Most students never ever play a real fortissimo, ever, nor a pianissimo, ever. So you stay in a box. You stay in your comfort zone of playing piano to a healthy forte. It's a nice box, but it's not what we did in the orchestra. Sometimes we had to play so soft you couldn't even hear yourself. When Abbado is up there and he's going like this, he says pianissimo, pianissimo. And you think, how can I play softer than that? Well, some people stick a mute in and they do it. And he would say, con sordino? And I say, no, maestro, I can play it as soft as you want, open. Then you have conductors who, they all want to do Bruckner and Mahler and Strauss, where you're blowing your head off. And you got to play incredibly loud, but beautiful. So you have to practice those things. And when you practice those extremes, you find out you're able to do a lot more things, play a lot more different styles, dynamics of excerpts. And Mozart, you would never play more than about a forte, ever. And sometimes he writes a dynamics, and most of the time he doesn't. One quick story. The Bruckner Fourth has two versions. And the first time it came out, and he put it in front of the horns and the Vienna Philharmonic, the opening horn solo was piano. Piano on an F horn is very slippery, even on Wiener horns. And I am certain that the horn player went up to Bruckner and said, "Maestro, is it possible we could play a little bit stronger, a little bit more on the beginning? That's a very difficult note, you know." Roland Berger said to me one time, "Dale, can you imagine playing the Bruckner Fourth on an F horn? Can you imagine that?" And I said, "No, I can't." And I said, "I don't know why you do it." He says, "Tradition." But Bruckner raised the dynamic level to mezzo forte, which is a little more sensible, a little easier. And he changed some other things in the piece as well. Now, in an orchestra, in a big concert hall, all of you have been playing for a whole year in your bedrooms or your living room, all of you. And so you play the dynamic level for that bedroom. But that's not the way it is in a concert hall. I play for the back row of a concert hall. And anybody who's ever sat near me, Melanie over here, they know that what dynamic level is present on the music, I may not play that soft because it needs to be more. And if you have an orchestra of 100 people, they're pulling a lot of sound. I have to rise above that. So dynamics are relative, very relative, depending upon where you are. When you play a recording studio, you almost never have to play a fortissimo. Never. They won't like it in the studio if you play that loud, and it's not necessary. So your audience is wherever the microphone is. So if you freelance and you play in studios, it's one kind of playing, dynamics, etc. Tone quality's got to be good in both. You play in a major orchestra, a big orchestra, the necessity of playing a wide dynamic contrast is incredible. And it's got to be good fortissimo, really good. So I strongly recommend you to be able to strengthen this, and I call it pursing. You go towards the center as you play louder. And as you play louder and higher, you go more. If you really want to play loud and high, you purse like hell. A lot. And this keeps the tone from spreading and being thin and so forth. All of us are also playing our horns in whatever our conditioning is, whatever we like to hear. If you grew up in England, you listened to Dennis Brain, which I did, it's a style of horn playing which is unique to him at that time, but it has changed now. And the same has happened in Germany, and it's particularly changed in France. Andrew, have you ever heard this Frenchman play the Glière on a single Wiener horn? It is mind-boggling.
That sounds crazy.
It is mind-boggling. And he plays the shit out of it. He plays wonderfully. And you know, so things change. And it's okay. Especially during this last year, where everybody can have an opinion and hear what other people do and talk and learn. I've learned more in the last 4 or 5 months from the visitors I've had on my studio class than I ever realized I would. I can't imagine. You never ever stop being a student, ever. I practice because I like to play. I practice mainly so that my students can still hear, hopefully, a beautiful sound, a wide range of dynamics, a wide range of articulation, and how certain excerpts can and should sound. Andrew, I give it back to you. You got any questions?
I have no questions, but I think we should do a little bit of playing. So I'm gonna jump in and do something that we do quite often actually in this class. So we're going to start with some little chromatics. We've done a bit of buzzing, which is fantastic. I can see a lot of mouthpieces there. Everyone's got their horn. So let's start on the middle C on the horn, and we're just going to go down a tritone. And this is actually to what Dale was talking. This is amazing information, Dale. It's just fantastic. It's I'm sitting here absorbing all this information. It's really great. So we're going to start soft, and we're going to gradually build up our dynamic range and our range as we go into the low register. But what's interesting, and what I really like what you're saying, Dale, is like the use of not using your tongue early on in the process, and just letting the air do the work and letting that get going before we start bringing the tongue in. Because for me, the tongue is the thing that makes the most challenges and changes things.
Without fuel, air, oxygen, wind, we are nothing. And some people persist in taking small breaths, and you don't have enough. So you have to get in the habit. And before you do this, our habits that we build, we have habits in everything that we do in life, but our habits about the horn, the way we practice, when we practice, how long we practice, what we practice, you need to make a plan in your book and write it down and establish extremely good, reasonable habits. On the other side of things, there's our motivation, which changes a lot. There's some days I just don't feel like playing at all, and I don't. Then I realize if I don't play some, I'm not going to be able to demonstrate to my students. And if I got called to play extra in an orchestra, I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd have to say no. So we relate our motivation and our habits extremely good. What you're going to do now is to take an exercise, and whether you do it every day or whatever, you're going to do it in a very disciplined and planned way. I'm just going to listen. Why don't you leave yours on, and I'll listen.
Let's get going with chromatics. So starting on middle C. And the next one is flutter tongue. So we're going to go flutter tongue, focusing on moving this airstream as stably as you can. The next one, same airstream, so same basis of airstream, and then we're going to add a little bit of flexibility from your tummy. So what Dale was demonstrating as this huffing, this is what we want, a little bit of pulsing to feel as though this is going to be the basis of our articulation. We're not going to need our tongue to do too much work. And the last iteration of this one is to combine all these things, and then we just add the articulation. So we've got supported airstream, a little bit of flexibility with your tummy, and add the tongue. Beautiful. Down a half step. And flutter tongue. Huffing. And with the articulation. Next one. And we'll do one more.
I like the variety. I like the fact that you're going down. I like the flutter tongue. I forget the flutter tongue myself a lot. That's very good. I like the fact that you're playing it a very healthy forte. Could also do it even louder or ultra soft. I mean, the variety of things like this is, you know. Before I forget it, let me ask a question of everybody. And this is not a hypothetical question, but it's a question that everybody got to answer. Are you all equally proficient on the F horn and the B flat horn? If the answer is no, get your rear ends in gear and make it the same. That means 2 months on the B flat horn, no F horn. 2 months on the F horn, no B flat horn. 2 months, no tonguing. Everything is with the air. Blah, blah, blah. That kind of discipline. And we have that kind of time now. But be equally proficient, even in the middle range on the B flat horn. You want to do your next one, whatever it is?
Well, I mean, yes, we can. Yes, we can. I would love. So in the IAM community, I put a link up. We have Dale's horn yoga document that's in the IAM community. And there's some pretty cool exercises in there. I just wonder if you want to give us one of the exercises, lead us through one of the exercises in the horn yoga, Dale.
That was the criteria for that was one of Jesse's friends 6-7 years ago said, is there any exercise to warm down? Instead of warming up, warm down after you've played for 5 or 6 hours to play. And Jesse figured that one out. There's nothing in there that's new, but as nothing that we do is new. But it's a very good, disciplined kind of exercise. We here at IU, we do it a lot. But
all right, well, I'm going to steal one. I'm going to steal one from the horn yoga. We'll do this. I think you call it. I think it's flexibility 1. But
yeah.
And obviously this one expands as far as you like, which is really cool. And you can expand into the pedals and into the upper register exponentially. But I really like this one. I forget which. Austin Larson will know which one. Julie Landsman calls this something else. Spiders.
It's either the snake or the spider. I never remember which one's which.
Yeah. Snakes, spiders. Well, one of the questions that came through is how do you think of transferring the buzzing from the mouthpiece into the horn? How do you make that transition in the practice or in your general playing routine?
First of all, it's vibration. A good, beautiful, simple, easy vibration, non-tongue. I can change the dynamics. I can change the color. You hear the pitch go down when I put more lip in the mouthpiece. I just open my hand to adjust for that. But the first sound is for classic music, maybe Baroque music, and you can't playing Baroque horn is like this, so it's not exactly the same. It's classic music, Haydn and so on. That's three different styles, dynamics, etc. But I can do the same thing in the mouthpiece, and I just transfer it to the horn. And I think of it as a vibration. You can call it a buzz if you want to. It's okay. But a beautiful sound, that dictates everything, is how you sound. And always with plenty of fuel, no matter whether you're playing soft or loud. So it's relatively easy to go from the mouthpiece to the horn. And I am sure that in 300 years of horn playing that there are plenty of horn players practiced on the mouthpiece. You know, because they had children back then too, and the children went to bed early and they didn't want to wake the children, so they practiced on the mouthpiece. You know, all kinds of reasonable reasons why they...
Not many practice mutes around 200 years ago, hey Dale?
No, not many. None. Zero.
Yeah.
Well, maybe one during Beethoven's time, but you know, everything was experimental through most of that time.
Yeah. Cool. All right, let's combine. So we've done a little bit of lower stuff. Let's move a little bit higher. We're going to go to repeated note scales, which is something that if you've been here many times, you'll be pretty familiar with. So we're going to start on a middle C, and we're going to work our way up, focusing on, and as Dale says, making sure that the airstream is the foundation of everything. So we're focusing on making sure you take a really good breath and moving that air as simply and naturally as possible into the horn, and then the tongue will just coordinate with the change of notes. So
you say it better than I do.
I don't know about that. And so we go up a half step and we go to triplets. And now to sixteenths. So the goal, of course, of this one is as we add more articulation, we need to make sure that we stay connected with the airstream, and the tongue is just cutting that airstream. It's not changing how the air travels. The air is the dominant feature of this. We're going to keep going higher because I need to get to F sharp. Otherwise, my contract is void for Monday mornings. So okay, Austin, are you listening? You ready, Austin? This one's for you, okay? F sharp or G flat, which makes me feel more confident. It's a miracle. Just to give Dale some context, as we all know, if you have been to the warm-up session since the beginning, you'll know that F sharp is my kryptonite. My lack of coordination across the cross fingerings is sort of legendary in this group. So I get to practice a lot of F sharp major, and if I don't do F sharp major, it becomes a bit of a disaster. So
you're speaking horn pitch, F sharp.
Yeah, my F sharp, yeah.
All right.
So Dale, you think in C, right? You're in concert pitch.
I speak and think in concert pitch.
Yeah.
You stand in front of an orchestra and you're playing an E flat and you say, "Oh, I got a B flat." The concert master will say, "What is he talking about? B flat? That's not a B flat. It's an E flat." So, but it doesn't matter. I know what you're talking about, and it's not going to change. Most people are going to speak horn pitch anyway.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
What do you speak when you're playing in D? You still speak horn pitch?
I can speak both languages.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
That's the point. Everybody should be able to and know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But
in the studios, it's the same. All of the guys in the studios will speak in concert pitch. Yeah. Because for exactly that reason, the composers and the arrangers, they don't think in transposed pitch. So they're always talking in concert pitch. So thinking that way.
One other necessity, which not everybody does, a whole lot of people are not able to do. We must know what tonality we are playing in at all times. Whether you call it horn pitch or whether you call it concert pitch, you must know. Even in Mozart, he changes keys. And in the Mozart third, he changes keys 5 or 6 times, all of which are doable on the classic horn. But if you don't know what key you're playing in, the chances are you're going to play an incorrect intonation if you're not sure. Most people, when they get up a little bit high, especially with large bell horns, they play flat. Or if your hand is not in the bell far enough, the horn is sharp, so you pull out the main slide to be lower, and then you spoil the intonation on the top. It's just a circle of problems intonationally. But you must know the key. You can't play flat perfect fifths. You can't play sharp minor sevenths. You just can't do it. A quick example. What key are we in when we arrive at that written D, concert G? That is A dominant seventh. It's too high for it, especially when you're in a chord structure in the orchestra. So I always play and suggest third valve. It's also a different color. It's a different pitch and a different color. And somebody who plays 1 and 2, they will not make it into my section, because that means they don't really know what key they're playing in and how to make adjustment. You have to know these things. You have to know what key you're playing in, what note you're playing in that key, where that note belongs in diatonic intonation, and you have to know your instrument. And if you don't know this stuff, you're behind the 8 ball.
Dale, this has been a fantastic hour. Thank you so much for your incredible knowledge and experience, and this has just been very, very special. So there's only one more thing to do, and everyone who is here on a regular basis knows that we finished with the elephant. So Dale, as our guest of honor this morning.
You want me to do it?
Yes, please. Dale, can you take it down? We normally go on the F on down through the fingerings.
Oh, you do it on all the fingerings, okay?
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Dale. So all of the exercises from this morning will be on the IM Community Facebook page, on Facebook group. So if you are not yet subscribed to that group, please subscribe. All of the recordings of the warm-up sessions are on YouTube, on the Invested Musician YouTube channel. So please check us out there. If you also need tax tips and financial tips, RuPaul has a bunch of them going onto the YouTube channel as well.
Thank you very much for coming on. I've had a blast.
Yeah, I'm sure I speak for everyone saying this was a very special session, very special day. And thank you so much, Dale. And
Thanks, everyone.
Ciao.
thanks. Have a great week.